Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it has been a hot minute since I've posted. I think the last video I posted was like 3 weeks ago. Yikes. But yeah, thank you guys for coming back to my channel. Before we do start this video, please don't forget to subscribe down below and click your post notifications so you know when I post a new video, which I hope will be a lot sooner than this time. With quarantine and everything, I lost my motivation for a little bit, so I had to like bring it back in real quick. So yeah, so don't forget to give it a like if you do enjoy this video. So as you can tell by the title, today's video is going to be another paranormal stories video. Decided to do it a little bit different this time. Instead of the voiceover with the pictures and stuff, I decided to just come on camera so you guys could see me and my face more often. So it's not just my voice. Plus I hate how I sound when it's like me reading off of something, so I was like, screw it, I'll try to do it off the top of my head and see if I can do that better. But we'll see how it turns out, because I tend to ramble on and lose track of time and of what I'm talking about, so let's see how this goes. Alright, so the first story I'm going to tell you guys is about my 3 half-brothers when they used to live in Mexico. This used to be a story that they would tell us all the time when we were little. We used to live in Inglewood, and we would all sit outside our apartment complexes with all the kids that lived there. And a lot of the times we would get in trouble for telling these stories, because a lot of the little kids there would get would get us in trouble because their parents would be like, you guys need to stop telling scary stories, and this would get us into a little predicament. So yeah, so this story is the youngest one of my half brothers used to tell us when we were little. It was in that house that they used to live in when they lived in Mexico for a short period of time with their dad and some of his aunts from their side of the family. They lived in like a 2-story house, and one of my half brothers was alone in the house one day. And keep in mind that when he was little, he used to watch Tales from the Crypt or Tales of the Crypt. I don't know which title it was, but he used to watch a lot of that when he was little, which may have factored into why he either tells the story or why he said that he saw this in in the story. So yeah, anyway, he was by himself in the house one day, and he said that he was in his room, which was upstairs, and he decided to get a snack from the kitchen. So he was coming down the stairs, and the layout of it was that right at the bottom of the stairs there was his entire living room, and they had a couple couches, and then they had a rocking chair as well. And so he went down to the kitchen, which was like all the way at the end, and he had to cross the living room, get into the kitchen. He said he grabbed a snack or whatever, and that when he walked back into the living room, the rocking chair that was there, somebody was sitting in it. So he got really freaked out, and though he could only see the back of their head, he said it was somebody with like gray hair, and it was like really thin. And he started to slowly walk to the staircase, and the person who was sitting there started turning around. And he said that as soon as they started turning around and he saw like their face, he like flew up the stairs, and he like locked himself in his room, and he waited until his aunts came back, or whoever was living at the house at the time. He said that he waited for them to come back home until he came out of his room, and then when they finally came back home, he ran down the stairs, and he was avoiding the rocking chair at all costs. He ran to one of his aunts, and he told them that what he saw, he's like, it's the skeleton from Tales of the Crypt, and they were all like, you're crazy, like nobody believed him. So he ended up just brushing it off and saying like, well, they're not gonna believe me, and they're gonna think I just imagined it, because he watches Tales of the Crypt all the time, and people were telling him that he needed to stop watching that because it was obviously affecting him, and it was obviously scaring him, and he was young, and kids always just imagine things. So they ended up telling him that he probably just imagined it. And every time he would tell us the story, he was like, I don't think I imagined it. Like, he swore that he saw this person, even though it's like a character on TV. You know, something might have manifested itself into whatever he was scared of. So I don't completely believe he was lying, but I feel like something in his mind, you know, made that into something to scare him. So he ended up just, you know, brushing it off, and he just always told the story to people all the time as one of his scary stories and one of his paranormal stories and experiences in his life. So I always like that story because it really gave me like an eerie vibe, and then it takes me back to my childhood when we used to love telling each other scary stories. A lot of them were made up, or like stories that we've heard on TV or whatever, and most of the kids and us knew which ones those were, you know, like Bloody Mary and like all those other kinds of scary stories that people just know, urban legends and stuff. So yeah, that's that first story at their house in Mexico. Yeah, so the second story is still at their house, as I said. So my half brothers and their cousins used to play outside of this same house, and they used to play like with the soccer ball, and they used to just play soccer in the backyard. And from what he told me was that there was a house on the other side that was like not occupied, or it was abandoned, or one of the two, and it was like a really rundown house, and it was old, and they were always like pretty scared of it, so they kind of just ignored that area, and they would just play, you know, closer to their house, and you know, just kick the ball around and, you know, have fun and stuff during the summer and when it was nice outside. So what he had told me was that one day they were playing soccer. All three of my half brothers, as well as their cousins, as I said, they were playing soccer outside, and the ball got kicked all the way to the end of where the house that's abandoned was. So they all they were all debating on who was gonna go and get the ball, and what they ultimately decided was that my youngest half brother was the one to go get it. So this is his story again. He said that he went to go get the ball. He ran all the way to the end of the yard where the house was on the other side of like a fence, and he said that the ball landed right on the side of the fence, and he could see like one side of the house. He said that he like started to pick up the ball, and that he saw somebody like looking through like a hole in the house, and he said that he stared at it for a while, kind of like shocked that he was looking at somebody looking at him, and they were just like kind of staring off at each other, and he finally just picked up the ball and he started running back with it. And this wasn't all in the same day, by the way, as the last story. This was like separate occasions. So yeah, so he went back, took it back to his cousins and his half brothers, or his brothers, and it's really hard to explain what I'm talking about, but anyway, he took it back, and then he told them that somebody was looking at him inside of the house, and then they were all like chattering and like freaking out and being like, there's nobody lives in that house, you know. They were all clamoring and talking about it, and they finally all decided to walk to where the house was, and they were looking around down where the fence is and where you could see the side of the house, and you could see that they were saying that you could see that there was a hole on the side of the house, like near where I presume the basement was, and they couldn't see anybody there anymore. But my brother said that in that hole was where he saw somebody like peer through, and he saw somebody's eye. They were just staring at each other for a while, and it really freaked him out. And he said after that incident, he did not want to play out in the backyard anymore, and he wouldn't even go out in the backyard anymore because he was scared to look at the house. And yeah, that was the second story. It wasn't as long or, creepy as the other one, but I still thought that was weird. And they thought maybe it could have been somebody homeless living in there. Alright, anyway, so next story, number 3. This is a story that my mom used to tell me about one of her family members, and I used to tell it all the time when my friends and I would be going home from somewhere really late, and I would always creep them out. And one by one, we would all get dropped off, and we would all be scared by the end of it. And my friends really did not like when I brought the story up. I used to tell it to multiple different friend groups, and then they would all get like mad at me for telling them that story, because then they would go home and be scared and shit. But anyway, yeah, so the story goes that one of my mom's, I think it was like her uncle or something, he would ride home on his horse from work, because they lived in a rancho with my great grandma. And so he would take this long, narrow dirt road home, and it was surrounded, by wooded area. And then when he would get to a certain point of the road, he would cross through the wooded area and then go up to where my grandma's rancho was. And my mom said that in this like wooded area there was a little lake, or just a body of water with a waterfall coming down, and people would always just hang out in this area or do laundry, whatever the case might be. And so there was always people around here, and it wasn't really weird to see people here, except it was the middle of the night. So in this occasion it was a little bit odd. So my mom's uncle crosses the wooded area, and he comes to this body of water, and he sees a lady, and she's in the water, and he's kind of like, what the hell? So he's looking at this lady, and she's just standing there in the water, and she's all wet, and he approaches her, and he's like, do you need help? Like, it's the middle of the night, she's in the river, and it's cold, and he's kind of confused, and he thinks that something might have happened to her and she needs help. So he's offering her help, and she's not saying anything. He's like, do you need to ride back to town? Do you need to ride to your home somewhere? And she just nods her head, and he's like, okay, well, get on my horse. And he helps her get on the horse, and as soon as she gets on the horse and she like holds on to him, the horse kind of starts going off, and he just starts going all the way to my great grandma's rancho, and he doesn't stop. Like, he's telling him to slow down and all of that, and he's not listening, and the horse is like spooked as fuck, and he doesn't know why. And so my mom's uncle is like freaking out, and then he said that the whole time he could still feel that somebody was holding on to him. So the girl was still there the whole time, and they finally get to the rancho, and he's about to help the girl get off of the horse, and he realizes that she's not on the horse anymore, and he starts panicking because his first thought is that she fell off. So the horse like takes off, and it's like still spooked, and so he grabs another different one of his horses, and he goes off to look for her in the path that they were coming from, and he can't find her anywhere. He goes all the way back to the river or the body of water, and he cannot find her. And so he's really confused. He's like, if she fell off at any point, I would have felt it, that she wasn't there anymore, but I could feel her holding on to me all the way up to getting to the rancho. So he was really confused, and he was really scared, and he ends up going inside the house to tell my great grandma what happened. And then she like sits him down, like first of all calms him down, because he's really freaked out, he's really scared, he doesn't know what happened to this girl, he doesn't know like at what point she got lost or she got off the horse. So my grandma's like talking to him, and like he tells her everything, and she ends up basically telling him that it was probably an apparition. Like she said that this has happened to a lot of different people, where it's like ghosts kind of just do this regular routine where they just vanish, and then they go back to their original place. It's like just a routine that ghosts or spirits have sometimes, and they just keep reliving it. And a lot of different people have said that somebody appears to them, and they give them a ride somewhere, and then they're gone, and it keeps happening over and over. And so that's what my great grandma ends up telling him, and he's kind of skeptical. He doesn't really believe it. He really thinks that there's a girl that fell off somewhere, and maybe she's hurt or something. And the next morning, my mom said that he ends up going out into the woods and looking for her again. He never finds any trace of it. And then after that, he kind of realizes that it might have been an apparition, so he ends up not crossing the woods through that area anymore because he just gets freaked out after that incident. He's like, no more, name. So yeah, that's the end of that story. It's a story I really like telling people, as I said, and a story that my mom told me when I was younger. I don't know why, but she used to always be scaring us. And actually, scratch that. It was our fault because we were always asking for it. We always wanted scary stories, and we'd go to my mom to tell us scary stories from when she lived in Mexico. So yeah, I guess even from a young age, I used to love paranormal stories. So anyways, let's move on to the fourth story, I think. Yes. So the fourth story, and maybe my last, because I don't think I remember any other one that my mom told me from Mexico. But anyway, this one is a story about my mom when she lived in Mexico. They're all gonna be set in Mexico, okay? This story, as the title says, it's Mexico stories, okay? About my family members when they lived in Mexico. So anyway, so my mom used to also visit this house in my great grandma's rancho. Oh my god, I can't fucking talk. She used to always visit this place as well with my grandparents, and they would go up and visit my great grandma, and they would all stay there. And my mom would help to tend the farm, and she would do all of this stuff with my great grandma, just like help out and stuff. So she used to have her own little room down there, and so she would sleep by herself usually. This was before she met my dad or had me or anything. And she said that she was sleeping one day, one night she was sleeping, and she normally slept in this room all the time. It wasn't really weird for her. It wasn't her first time sleeping there either. And she said that she was lying in bed and she started to wake up, and she was dozing in and out. And she said that when she opened her eyes fully, she just saw a bunch of people digging. They were digging in where her room was. They were just digging, and she said that she could see through these people and see her actual room, but at the same time see where they were. It was like a weird apparition thing where I don't know if you've ever seen it in movies where they do a layover of what used to be where the house is, I guess. She said that that's what it looked like, that she basically could see that her room was still there, but the apparitions that she was seeing were just dirt, and they were just digging in the area. And what she thought of it at the end was that it was what used to be there, and the people who were constructing this area before the house was there. And she never really found a conclusion as to why she saw this, but she kind of just snapped out of it, and then everything was gone. And she thought that she was dreaming, and that it was just something that she her brain came up with, and maybe she was in the middle of a dream and she was just waking up out of it. So she didn't really think anything of it. It's just something that she used to tell us, and she was like, yeah, this is a weird thing that happened. I don't really remember, but actually happened. So it's just a little scary story that she added here and there, and she would tell us at night. And we were always really curious, and we would pry for more, and we were like, what if it was people that died while they were constructing the rancho or blah blah. And then she didn't really have anything to prove that was what happened, because my grandma or my great grandma said that was nothing that happened when they were making the farm that they were at. So she was like, I don't know, maybe you just imagined it, maybe you were dreaming about it, I don't know. So we always used to thinking that it was a ghost or something, and they were just reliving the routine that they had before they passed. So I don't know, I always thought that one was really creepy, but my mom was kind of you know, it's not even anything that crazy. So she would always dismiss it, but I was always like, ghost, yeah, 100% scary. I love that story. My mom saw ghosts when she was younger. And but even to this day, I'm still like, it's a little bit sus. But my mom was like, no, it was just a little thing I dreamt about. But she always used to include it into her little scary paranormal stories that she would tell us. And yeah, I think that is it for that story. I can't really think of any other details for it. But yeah, as I said, this is the last story. Alright guys, so that was it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a comment down below about what you think about these stories, or if you guys have any stories that you would like to share with me, because I always love reading about scary stories, paranormal stories, or like listening to podcasts or videos on YouTube. I love that shit so much. So if you guys have anything you'd like to share, please leave it in the comments down below. And also don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on your post notifications so you know when I post a new video, which will hopefully be sooner than 3 weeks. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.